This is a gambling podcast, and we're not going to talk about sports for the first 10 minutes or so. I'm going to derail us right from the get-go. I was having an interesting conversation with a buddy of mine at the gym the other day. Here's what we were talking about. If you were stuck in a building during the zombie apocalypse, where would you be able to last the longest using just the materials in the building? Now, I want to put a quick disclaimer that we came to an agreement on early yesterday in our conversation with myself and this buddy of mine, is that we decided you cannot pick a retail store. That's too easy because you could hold up in Walmart or hardware. There's too much variety. We want you to be held up in a place where it's more specified. So we were talking like a gym jumps to mind where you have a bunch of heavy material like kettlebells, stuff like that. You can maybe make a sort of a fortress by barricading doors with plates and stuff like that. You've got some weapons. You can kind of go out and bring back stuff to the secured position. You think about gyms too. There's not a ton of wind. In some gyms there are, but in most gyms, there's a very select amount of windows in specific areas of the gym where you can find places where it's like their cardio room that's kind of off, no windows, something like that. I had one suggestion, though, that I think is a little off the beaten path, but I think is actually really good the more you think about it. I made the argument that a school is one of the best places that if you have to be, that's your building, that's your location. Because a school, there is, granted, especially if it's a public school, the athletic equipment is probably crap, but it's at least some form of material that you can use to defend yourself. And then you think about all the desks and things like that. You can use that for pretty substantial barricades. I was also thinking, too, that a school, the layout is big enough where you can create sort of an almost maze situation where you know how to get back to whatever room you've held up in during this apocalypse. But you can also have avenues branching off. So if zombies do wander in and get through, you could have like this hallway has all sorts of booby traps down it. Whereas you can navigate back to your spot and there's enough layout where you can kind of booby trap the rest of it to make it harder if a big swarm of zombies comes through. And there's enough materials where you could make some sort of weapons. You could get the baseball bat. You could duct tape different like pencils and stuff onto it to commence with the bashing, as Charlie Kelly would say. But there's a variety of options. There's also like you could go like the restaurant route, where a restaurant's a little sketchier because lots of restaurants you have like the window set up. You have some sort of views, and so it's a little harder to secure, but you have food. You're not having to branch out. You're not having to leave the building to get supplies. You think about like the kitchen setup could offer you an array of weaponry to defend yourself. And so I wanted to get your take on this, Seth. What building would you hole off in away from the world if there's a zombie apocalypse and you think you could last the longest? And again, retail stores are cheating.
I have two.
All
One
right.
of them is kind of a joke because if you are in a situation where you have to mow down a bunch of zombies, you want either guns or you want light weaponry. And so the first, totally in jest, is a hobby shop because they got samurai swords that
Is good.
They are just waiting for people to buy, like Pawn America. They've got everything you can think of under the sun at your disposal.
That's true. And here's just a quick aside. Somebody who's listening to this is like, both these guys are idiots. You could just do a gun store and last forever. But here's the thing that you don't think about. If you use Walking Dead as a reference, if you're popping off every time a zombie comes through, you're going to have all the zombies attracted to that noise. So you want a pawn shop is actually a brilliant choice because that gives you some guns, but you also have the samurai swords. You have the baseball bats. You have ways to pick them off if they're just coming one at a time. But if you have a big swarm and you do have to resort to that louder option of a gun, you do have that. But I think a gun store is a bad option because now you're stuck. You don't have a baseball bat. You have to kill them with a gun. Yeah. And that's just going to attract more and more zombies.
finite number of bullets. A samurai sword does not have a finite number of swings.
And it's quiet. It's quiet.
It
That
is.
is a huge bonus.
Plus, we're just assuming samurai swords. Like, you could have other movie weapon memorabilia that shows up, like an axe, or just
What pawn shop doesn't have like one of the tomahawks, you know?
like Rambo's dagger that's like this big, just the hunting knife
Yeah,
that you
the
can
big
just
long
throw
knife.
right into the collarbone and say, "See ya."
There you go.
So,
So that's your first pick. That's a great pick. I love it.
the second is, and I'll explain this, but I think it's brilliant. It is loud, but a car plant.
A car.
So where
Explain yourself.
they build cars.
Yeah.
So you've got all of the conveyor belts and all of the other things that could lead to accidental deaths on the part of the zombies. And you have rooms overseeing the plant. So you have all the machinery at your disposal. Let's say you've got a large, heavy car part on a conveyor belt that you just want to drop onto a horde of zombies.
The booby trap element is pretty high there, and I think you're going the same route as the school building I was, where a few zombies get in, even if they're just meandering around, it's going to take them a while to try to actually find you because there's so many different avenues. It's a large space. It makes itself almost an obstacle course just with the layout itself, and you have all the tools, wrenches, things like that that you can make into weaponry, fashion to weaponry. Plus, if you have these big car body parts, you can use those in your booby traps to crush or trap zombies. Yeah, that's a pretty good pick. That's a pretty good pick.
I want to piggyback off of the school though, because I think that's the winner because of some things that we didn't think about. Go raid the shop room.
Shop room, lots of tools to just build
everything.
Up. You have a cafeteria, which is probably not as well stocked as a restaurant, maybe, but you still have. Oh, actually, I would argue that it might be as well stocked as a restaurant because a restaurant you're going to have a decent amount of food variety, but a school is going to have a couple of meals, but a ton of them because they're servicing more people every day. There's more people every day.
Cheesy crust pizzas.
Dude, I was thinking, did your school have the chicken sandwich that for some reason just slapped every time? Like all the other food was garbage.
Yep.
How is your meatloaf this bad and your chicken sandwich is just off the charts?
This meatloaf is as hard as the bricks that build up the school.
Where were the bricks that built up the school?
But then, like, here's some other things. So a school has security cameras everywhere. So you have eyes on the entire building. They also have, a lot of them have those, the wire, like, gates that come down to seal off the hallways. So if you have one particular entrance you're not planning to use, lock the outside access door. Lock that second set of doors that gets into the school. Put that gate down.
It's a little like you know how a castle, if you think about like old Europe, old England, you think about how they had the exterior wall and then they had most of the populace that was part of their just everyday economy living inside that exterior wall. And then they had extra housing too if they were under siege, where the farmers could come in and live inside that exterior wall. And then they had the inner wall. And then if the exterior wall is breached, everyone goes into the inner wall. And then they had the keep, right? And that was the last line of defense. And so you're right. Where a school, you could blockade, take all the desks, you're blocking off windows, you're boarding up windows because you have a shop class, you're able to board up the windows. You have the main doors that you're not using blocked up with all these desks. And then if you do get a breach, you run back, you drop some gates. Now maybe you lost like the gymnasium and the cafeteria, but now you have this block of school classrooms that are blocked off. You can't get down those halls because you have this gate dropped. It's the best pick. It's the best pick.
Yeah, and in the case of my high school, they had an underground tunnel system that ran beneath the school. I don't
catacombs.
I don't know why.
What? Wait, what? Okay, what?
I
I didn't even explore what was happening at Seth's high school.
I did find a pentagram down there at one point.
What is going on at your high school? What is your part of the Illuminati? Dear God.
I'm part of it anyway, but you know, yeah, I think school is the pick, just because you can fully like control the environment.
You can set it up well.
Yeah.
The other one that I thought of briefly was a prison. Also, kind of offers some of these same advantages.
Oh, prison is a really good one.
Prison is a really good one. The problem that I have with a prison is I feel like in a prison you're not going to get access to, because those are already set up to be inhabited if an outbreak happens, if an apocalypse happens, the guards are going to take over a prison right away. Or if not the guards, the inmates are going to take over a prison right away. Whereas if an apocalypse happens, like, kids are going back to their homes, teachers are going back to get their families, they're abandoning a school, you can go in and move in and secure that area.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So I think
we'll anoint
school the winner.
All right. I love it.